So there are a lot of questions around AMMs as well as impermanent loss. So I figured I'm going to show you in the math form. I wanted to do something different because I could do the slides, but the slides is just, when you talk about math, you kind of have to do it and show it. Otherwise, it's quite difficult to understand. So I'm just going to take you through what happens when we talk about when this trade happens and what are the different risks involved. So we're going to talk about two risks, which is one that happens during trade and one happens after trade. Then there are more complicated things you can do your calculations at. But let's get started with something simple, then it's better for you to understand what's going on, right? Okay, so let's take Uniswap for example, because Uniswap is the most basic and simple formula. So we're going to cover three things today. We're going to talk about AMM. We're going to talk about what happens at trade. We're going to talk about what happens after trade. We're going to use the example of Uniswap's AMM. So Uniswap's AMM is very simple. It's just X times Y equals K. I mean, technically, it is X 0.5 times Y 0.5, you get K, because they are the same thing, and K is just a constant. But let's not make it so complicated. I mean, it is the same thing, but since it's algebra and just numbers, you can just use X times Y equals K. Okay, so this is just the basic stuff. So what's X and Y? X and Y are the tokens. Tokens quantity. So token 1 and token 2. The thing about Uniswap is that for all these different AMMs, one of them is definitely ETH. So you have the amount of ETH, which is X, and the amount of the second token, which is Y. So let's take an example, right? So that's number 1, AMM. Number 2, what happens at trade? So let's say we have this pool, which has 10 ETH and 500 Lisa tokens. Okay, so there's 500 Lisa tokens. Now, what is this K then? This K is a constant. It doesn't change. And it's a constant at a state. This is the amount that we start with, right? So what is the constant here then? Then it's 10 ETH multiplied by 500 Lisa tokens, and that gives us 5,000. And this is, again, the constant. This value is very important because it is the value that governs what happens at trade. What we're going to do now? So this is the state that we are in. Now let's say someone wants to buy Lisa tokens. So we spend 1 ETH to buy an unknown number of Lisa tokens. Okay? How do we calculate this unknown number of Lisa tokens? Very simple. How many ETH are we going to have now? We're going to have 11 ETH, and then we're going to have unknown number of Lisa tokens. But we know that X times Y always equals to 5,000. Simple. How do we do this? So the unknown number of Lisa tokens, you get 5,000 divided by 11, which is the new number of ETH now. You get 454.5 Lisa tokens. Okay? This means that at the end of this transaction, there will be 11 ETH in there and 545.5 Lisa tokens. And what happens to the remaining? Well, that's what you do. The whole thing about exchange is that you give something to take something out, right? So you give 1 ETH, and how much Lisa tokens are you getting out? So this amount over here is 500 Lisa tokens minus this 454.5 tokens, and you withdraw 45.5 Lisa tokens. Understand? So it's quite simple. What I'm assuming here is that there is no trading fees. Okay, so that's why we can always come back to almost the same constant, and we can have this kind of trade. But in reality, there is a trading fee which is 0.3% at Uniswap, and this amount will affect a little bit more complication. It's not that complicated, it's just a bit more math to deal with, but it's fine. Let's make it simple. Without trading fees, this is what you get. This is the transaction. You can do one more if you want to do 12 ETH. So if you increase 12 ETH, how much Lisa tokens can you get out? So you can do that on your own. But let's talk about risk first. Risk, what is this? What we have, this situation that we have is within the ecosystem, right? So everything here is done within the ecosystem. And what risk are we talking about here? We're talking about price slippage. So everything that's done here is all the things that's moving around, it's all within the ecosystem. You don't really care about what's happening, of Lisa token that's listed on Binance or CoinMarketCap or whatever. Everything is done here. But you still have a risk because you have price slippage. So for example, someone gets to purchase it before you. So let's take a look. If you're the first buyer, so you purchase 11th token. Now if you're the second buyer, so now it's 12 ETH. So it's 4999.5 divided by 12 ETH. And that's how many Lisa tokens we get. And that amount is 416.625 Lisa tokens. So initially we had this amount, 454.5. And so how much will I get? I will get 454.5 minus 416.625. You get 37.875 Lisa tokens. So do you see a massive difference? If you are the first ETH to come in, right, 11th ETH, you get this amount, 45.5 tokens, 45.5 Lisa tokens. Now, if you are the second one that comes in, you have only 37.875 tokens. So there's a difference in price. So it's not really a risk, it's more like that's how the trade works, right? Because there's less supply available, and so you don't get as much out of it for the same thing, both giving 1 ETH. Now, when we talk about price slippage is where the price drops because during the trade itself. So this is an extreme example, but what if we look at a situation where the prices, so you agree to take this amount out, right? So based on the math, very straightforward, you're going to take 37.785. You can get this amount of Lisa tokens for 1 ETH. Now, during this trade, there are other trades happening within the ecosystem, and in the end, you only get out maybe 36.938 Lisa tokens. And so you have this difference in value. And this difference in value is the price slippage because of a lot of things going on. Usually it's also due to a lot of trading fees and a lot of other variables that's going on. So this is the risk within the ecosystem. And then let's talk about the risk after your trade, which is this other risk called impermanent loss that everyone is talking about. I'm going to clean the board first. Okay, so what we talked about just now was what goes on within the trade. When you give 1 ETH, what happens? And we use the formula to determine how many Lisa tokens you get. And we have the risk of price slippage because maybe during that time, because of the different variables involved, then you don't get the price that you thought you wanted. So that's price slippage. And that's a kind of a risk. Now, let's move on to what happens after the trade, or what are the other risks available. Let's get started with that. In the meantime, take a look at my bruise. The other guy is in the hospital. But no. So I ran and then I fell down because I slipped on the bath mat. Don't run at home. So remember what's the main formula? The general formula is x times y, you get k, right? K is the constant. And what did we talk about just now? Just now we say that the price of x in terms of these two assets is really just y over x. Okay? Remember, we had like 10 ETH, and then we have 500 Lisa tokens. So the price of 1 ETH is really just 500 Lisa tokens divided by 10, you get 50 Lisa tokens. So this price is really the price in relation to each other. So if we combine them together, we get this new formula of what is the expected returns, or what's the expected price given the price keeps changing. Just now what we did was we fixed the price, right? This is 1 ETH, how much Lisa tokens you're going to get. So if we rearrange this a little bit, we put, let's say, so x price, let's replace x, okay? Or x price times, let's do x. So x, you get y over x price. So these two are the same. So what we want to do now is we're going to substitute this x into this x. X times y equals k. And now I know x is also y over x price. Multiply by y, you get k. So y squared over x price, you get k. And y, you get k multiplied by x price. And then you just square root the whole thing. So this is the value of y. Now let's look at the value of x. So what we have done here is to price the items in x. Now let's price it in y. So y, you get k over x. Wait, wrong. This one. So I use red. So you get y, you get x multiplied by x price. So if you multiply this, so it's x multiplied by x multiplied by x price, you get k. So you have x squared times x price, you get k, and that means x price, that means x squared, you get k over x price, and x, you get root k over x price. So at the end of the day, these are the two formulas we're looking at, based on these two general formulas that we have discussed before. This one, and this one. Writing on the cardboard is really, really not fun. Okay, so that's that. Now, what happens, let's go deeper into exploring this, right? What happens when the price, so we know that this price, we had 10 ETH, and then we had 500 Lisa tokens. It's a bit harder to justify, but because it's easier in DAI, because then you can trade it in secondary market. But let's just say this is the exchange rate right now, which is 1 ETH, you get 50 Lisa, right? Now, let's say in the secondary market, in Binance, in Coinbase, or whatever, prices increase. So initially, one here, right? This is in your DEX, in your decentralized market. Let's say in the outside market, we have 1 ETH equals more expensive. Let's say it's 55 Lisa. So this is outside market. Okay, why does this happen? You gotta understand that first. Because this price is determined based on whatever that is done in your pool. It depends on the assets available. That's why we did this entire formula thing, to show your price based on the assets available. However, in the secondary market, in the outside market, people have other trading pools, right? And you have different price for it. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, what happens? You realize that, what can I do? I can just go in, I give 1 ETH, I buy 50 Lisa tokens, then I can go to the outside market, or I use 50 Lisa tokens. I sell 50 Lisa tokens to get 1 ETH. I go to the outside market. I go to Binance. Then I give them that 1 ETH and I get 55 Lisa tokens. So in this process, I just do a little switch and suddenly I get 5 Lisa tokens for free. That's free money. So these are called traders. These are called arbitragers. They do arbitrage trading. So they find difference in 2 different places and then they trade to make the difference. And then that's how they earn money. So this is what is going to happen. So let's see what happens in this situation. Now, in this situation, let's put them back into these two stuff, right? So let's say X is ETH and Y is Lisa. So this is E and this is Lisa. So what does it mean? It means that in this pool, in this DEX right now, an arbitrager, so let's do a trader. He can come in, he says, I'm gonna take 1 ETH and I pay 50 Lisa to get 1 ETH. And when I put 1 ETH outside, I can get 55 Lisa back. So I'm earning 5 Lisas for free. So what can a trader do? The trader can take 50 Lisa tokens, take out 1 ETH. So you have 450 Lisa, and you get 11 ETH. Puts in 50 Lisa to get 1 ETH. So that means you have 550 Lisa, and then you take out the ETH. So you have 9 ETH. And then he goes and take that ETH, sells in Binance, and then gets 55 Lisa. So this is the amount he pays. This is pay. This is get. So it's free 5 Lisa tokens. Right? See that now? So because of this situation, because of this thing going on, and then if you plug those information into this stuff over here, then you realize that, okay, the ratio keeps changing, and the ratio will keep changing and rebalancing until inside the pool, you will get the value of 1 ETH will equals 55 Lisa. Okay, so this is, in the end, this will balance, right? And this will balance because you have these traders, these arbitrage traders come in to see the difference, mitigate the difference, and get the difference out. So this is what happens when arbitrage traders are trading. So where, if you just look at this situation, it's like, where's the risk? I put money in, and then people want to trade, people want to do whatever they want to do, let them be. It doesn't matter, because when they trade, I still get to keep, I get to have all these trading fees when it's going on. But this risk over here right now, the risk in this situation is called the impermanent loss. So this it's called impermanent loss, or whatever you want to call them. They exist because of these different trades. So I don't want to dive so deep because we already cover a lot of math. Let me give you the concept first. And if you want the math part, we can talk about the math part, because I don't want it to be too complicated. Because right now what we have over here is good enough to get you to understand what are the risks involved and how is the risk calculated. So if you just take a snapshot of this, you realize, it's fine. I am earning fees from here, and my tokens are still here. So the risk of impermanent loss comes when, with these pools, let's say you have 10 ETH, the pool is 10 ETH and 500 Lisa. So you have this thing over here called liquidity providers, LP. LP are liquidity providers. So you think these 10 ETH and 500 Lisa just came out of thin air? I mean, yeah, kind of, because the machines print them, but it has to be added in by someone. And so these someone are called liquidity providers. They provide liquidity. Liquidity providers. And when they provide liquidity into these pools, they also get ownership of this pool. So let's say I provide 1 ETH and I provide 50 Lisa. So, it balances, right? And so that means I own, how much do I own? I own 10%. I own 10% of this pool. So whatever this pool is worth, how much money it is, I own 10% of it. And also for all transaction fees, I keep 10% of the transaction fees. That means if, let's say, I want to liquidate my position, so my position, it's 10% here, and I want to liquidate my position, I am worthy of 10% of whatever there's in the pool value. So this is the situation. Now, the loss comes because when these arbitrage traders are doing all these different funky trades, you're changing the different ratios that's going on in the system, in the pool, and loss happens because the value of the pool after the arbitrage trade is less than holding tokens. So what do I mean? So if you keep it, this is what we had, right? We had 1 ETH plus 50 Lisa tokens. So I'm just going to erase that part and I'm going to bring this over here. So what we want to show right now is this situation of what do I mean by impermanent loss? Where's the loss coming from and how do we calculate that? Here we have the value of pool before arbitrage trade is less than the value of pool if it's less than just hold tokens. So we started off with 1 ETH plus 50 Visa tokens. And after the value of the pool after that is less than that, okay? So the formula to calculate that loss, the difference, the formula is 2 times square root of price ratio, so x over 2 times square root of price ratio over 1 plus minus 1. So the difference between the loss, so this is your loss, right? Your impermanent so your impermanent loss is this ratio, and this is for Uniswap. And this is based on all the formulas that we talked about just now. And this is a bit more complicated, so I'm not going to go into that because I realized that I get feedback, not complaints, because they're not complaints, they're just feedback, saying that it's too much and too complicated, so I'm not going to that, but this is the difference that you want to understand. Now, this is your impermanent loss. However, the whole idea of this thing called impermanent loss is that it's not permanent. It's permanent. It becomes permanent when if the price of the price is 1 ETH 50 Lisa. Then it became 1 ETH 55 Lisa. So if this is stagnant and if this is a short blip in the system, right? Maybe someone, whatever trade they did, and this was the difference. So the arbitragers made some money out of this, and then money went back to 50 Lisa again. They put all the funds that they traded out back in again. They have an incentive to do so. Then the ratio in the pool goes back to this, right? The ratio in the pool goes back to this 100 ETH and 500 ETH tokens. When it goes back to that, this impermanent loss doesn't exist because it returns to previous ratio. So it doesn't exist. However, it becomes permanent if the pools actually change. So the pools, they continue to be, whatever that is in after all these different arbitrage trading. So because of that, there's this thing called impermanent loss. And this is something that you have to consider, and this happens outside of the trade, because in the secondary market, the value changes, the value is quite different. And so we internalize the value. We internalize the value through these arbitrage traders who will be trading the difference and earning a profits from that. So so these exist, right? How do we dealing with these risks? So how do we deal with this risk? We talked about two risks. One is price slippage, and price slippage, what people could do is you want to prevent front running, so there's a cap to the amount of gas fees that you pay. We didn't talk about transaction fees, right? But in reality, there's transaction fees that affect all these different things that's going on. So you want to put a cap to that so no one front runs, and the price will be quite similar, and then you can do a lot of other math behind that. The other thing about dealing with this impermanent loss is that this is a risk, right? And one of the ways to deal with that is this native tokens. I know everyone keeps saying that this whole DeFi thing is a big Ponzi scam. You have all these native tokens that's not valuable. The thing is, it's valuable because it becomes a new incentive mechanism to be rewarding the risk that these liquidity providers are providing. They put their capital out there so that people like you and me can just trade on Uniswap, and that's good. But there is a risk to that. It's not risk-free. The risk is this impermanent loss by them just putting the money there. If they don't put the money there, they keep it in their wallet, then this 1 ETH that they own now becomes 55 ETH, and then they have 105 Lisa tokens worth of value. But because they put their tokens in there for us to trade in the Uniswap pool, then the value is a lot less, and the difference is this amount. So because they take on the risk, you have to reward the risk. That's the entire thing of economics. If you take risk, you're rewarded. Sometimes, usually. And we can reward them with native tokens. And that's where the whole idea of native tokens come in. And then these native tokens, that is their primary use, or that's their primary function, to be rewarding these liquidity providers. Then they can be traded in secondary market. They can be used in a lot of other ways. Because tokenization is another way of extracting value, then we can put the value in other places. So that's this. This is a short video of showing you some math behind impermanent loss, price slippage, and what goes on in autonomous market maker. If you want me to go through the math on this, comment below, and I will go through that. Otherwise, I'll see you at the balancer math, and we're going to dive more into math. See you in the next video. Bye!